Good morning, everybody. Vic, Ceviche, Vu, Justin, Jas. Good morning. A little bit of overnight weakness. Crypto remains strong and detached from the markets. Doug, good morning. Ben. Yesterday was not a fantastic day with that dump. And then, we're getting a little bit of follow through now, and it's healthy, right? It's healthy. It's like we've had such a, after yesterday, you'll try some Amazon drop shipping. Oh, no. Yeah, that's kind of how it feels, right? But this is why I am always personally trimming into strength, right? Trailing the rest on ascending moving averages. I do have one old short left, which is GRRR. I have some Rigetti short from yesterday, which is, effectively flat overnight. And some of my longs, whether it be Tesla, it sucked. XPEV sucked. Did not expect that gap down overnight. Held up so well yesterday, but obviously the FXI got hit overnight. Baba took a little spill overnight, and that kind of, took me about 30 cents in the red here on XPEV. So nothing really serious, but hell, that's what I love to hear. That's what I love to hear, Gian. I'm glad you're safe. Yesterday there was really nothing to do. I tried MSTR yesterday, and then it had that ugly dump. I even tried Meta yesterday over prior day high. That stopped me out as well. The CrowdStrike cup and handle didn't break out and had a very nasty close. So I closed the rest of that position after owning it from 400. The thing was at 450 yesterday, and I effectively would have given back. Yeah, if you haven't broke out yet, is lower a possible short? Yeah, could very well be. I mean, this thing's resting right on the 50. Maybe a touch quick, how fast it's gotten there, but it's gone sideways really, really nicely, while the market has, kind of tried to trek a little bit higher. So actually, Stonky, thank you for putting this on my radar, man. I kind of lost sight of this when it didn't break out to highs, but if you can't break out to highs, then maybe lower you go. Kind of a failure on earnings too. Fail on earnings, completely sideways. Yeah, Reddit was a good short when it relost the 200. It was one of those, Doug, where we even talked about, you've been on the stream long enough to know, where I had people mentioning Reddit, right when it had this little squared higher, like, Ariel, what do you think about Reddit? And I said, no. It has to establish itself above the 200. One little push higher while the market's been ripping does not matter. And sure enough, that was the high. Completely rejected, lost the 200 at 418, 419, about the spot to short it, in my opinion. And, even maybe some people came for it yesterday. But I'll be looking for pops today in the market. And if the market stays heavy on those pops, I will look for a short idea or two, because I don't just want to sit in my longs and, watch myself get stopped out. Same way I try to get myself long is the same way I try to get myself short, right? So when the market's pulling in, I'm always looking for relative strength in the market. And then that's what leads you to a Netflix, a Palantir, a CrowdStrike, an Uber, a Hood, a SE, a Zscaler, etc. And then now on the flip side of that is we do not know how long the market might pull back for. But, do you have a short that's working for you? And then is that giving you traction? Like recently, the XLV names. So UNH and really Lilly too is another one that is not acting all that great, right? So 2 days ago, I mentioned this thing as a possible short. Yesterday, it faded off all day. Now, again, this one's not everybody's favorite. Why? Because it's a little bit slow, which I completely understand. And so, but now you're getting this continued follow through. Yeah, KTOS is another one. So aerospace and defense is starting to weaken a little bit. Yeah, who knows? These names are also still in a top group, right? KTOS in particular. We'll see ACHRs in that same group too, also fading away some more. What's the other one? Rocket Lab's another one, fading away a little bit overnight. Godfather, how are you? Good morning, brother. But yeah, so similarly, if the market's going to stay heavy and it's going to pull underneath yesterday's lows, like I'll be looking for pops today. If they begin to stay heavy, have a short or two that you'd feel comfortable taking as it's breaking a key moving average, as it's rejecting a left side peak, as it's breaking a little flat pivot, as it's breaking yesterday's lows. And then if the market rewards that, right, and always use proper position sizing, but if the market begins to reward that, then you can look for another, and then you can look for another, etc. So the same way you get yourself involved on the long side of the market is the same way you should consider getting yourself involved on the short side of the market, right? Don't be afraid to ebb and flow with the market. And here's the thing, if you start to get stopped out of, so from my perspective, if I start to get stopped out of crowd, and then I start to get stopped out of, my CLS, and then I start to get stopped out of, a long after long after long, my hope is that I have put on enough shorts, one after the other, that I'm really, kind of maintaining my equity curve as, some of my longs are stopping me out and pulling back to ascending moving averages, but then fail. You're going to maybe start to get a short or two that begin to work for you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you very much, as always. And I hope you're well. Hopefully the planning for, a new home base is going great. Tell the wife we say hello. Morning, Steve-O. So, yeah, that's kind of my thinking. And obviously the FXI had a pretty big spill. It's not like I want to be short Chinese names right now, but, these things have been also straight up off the lows. King, morning. Dominic, how are you? Yeah, Bitcoin super strong. MSTR starting to lag just a little bit. It's almost like you'd rather own IBIT. They just did another offering this morning. Yeah, it seems a bit frustrating, but this is what happens when you're stuck in the middle of a range, right? This thing comes off the lows, it doubles, right? So the stock doubles off the lows. It's great. But then what happens, right? It's stuck in the middle of a range, and there's nothing really to do there. It needs to go sideways a little bit more, right? Like people want to see it double, and then they want to start to buy it, at 65 after a double. I think that's a little too soon, right? It needs a little bit more digestion after 100% move. So this isn't, completely abnormal. But yeah, we'll see what hangs in there and what does not. Coin ideally a little bit more sideways. Futu wasn't even that bad of a gap down, honestly. My thoughts on TME. It's one of the Chinese leaders. It's extended here, but it's one of the leaders. Yeah, it's extended. It's up 25% from the yesterday's highs. At the close, it's 22% from the 50 days. So it's about 5 times its average daily range from the 50. Let me just triple check with ATR with the average true range. Let's see. Yeah, it's 5 times. It's 5.27 its ATR on away from the 50. So it's not buyable here. It's too extended. Need to be patient for it a little bit. Let things tighten up. But, if the Chinese equities are going to keep going, TME likely keeps going. XPEP had such a nice day yesterday. Such a nice day yesterday, only for it to gap down. So hopefully before the open, this thing kind of can hang around above 21 bucks. I have a 21.30s, so hopefully this thing wants to stick around. What do I need to see in order to start adding back to longs? Well, one, I'd like to see some follow through, but I just want to see some clean setups, Jess. It's a great question. I just want to see some clean setups, right? I'm watching names like GEV, and you see how extended these got, right? Like look at the right-hand side of this chart, right? Look at the furthest right-hand side of this chart. This is straight up off the lows, right? 80%. Right? What do you think the stock needs after an 80% move? A couple weeks of sideways, right? If you look at SE, what do you think SE needs after a 60% move and just straight up every single day? A couple weeks of sideways, right? Look at Zscaler, straight up the right-hand side. What do you think it needs after a 50% move? You got that right. A few weeks of sideways. Palantir up 100% off the lows. What do you think this thing needs? It's the same damn thing. So one, I'd like to see the ascending moving averages be respected, but I won't be too surprised, for instance, if something like Palantir undercuts the 20, continues to build out the right-hand side as the 50 simple moving catches up, right? It's like we broke through the 50 simple here. I literally bought it on 423, and I had trimmed some into this strength, got stopped out on the rest like a total schmuck. But I just didn't want to watch it go back to the 20 at the time, which is like 102, like $2 away from my average. So I just cut it on this gap down at like 110. Big mistake, obviously. And that's where I can always improve. And then it just, kind of kept going from there. Is it going to refine some support on the rising 20? I have no idea. It's trying to do so right now. It tried to do so yesterday. I just don't know that that's what's going to happen. I'd like to see the 50 catch up a little bit more. Price just goes sideways, tighten up, and then in a few weeks, I know nobody wants to be patient for a few weeks. People don't have that kind of patience, in particular, traders. Everybody always feels like they got to do something. But it's really the reality when I look around the market, right? It's like you look at Hood. What do you think this thing needs after a 118% move off the lows? You got that right. It needs some sideways. What do you think Okta needs after a straight move right off the lows? 40%, right? It's like they're all in the same boat. Like even Melly, great Melly, right? 50% move for Melly, which is pretty big. You need some sideways, right? That's what they need. So, that's pretty much the only real way to look at it. And again, people don't want to be patient for weeks. They think that every dip is viable. People get themselves, too long up here near the highs, and then they end up getting their ass kicked on the way down. Right? It's like, just be patient, let things tighten up. Yesterday there was a bunch of volatility. Today there's break of yesterday's lows. I'm not sure if that holds. I don't know what's going to happen, but all I know is that I don't need to come right into the market today. I need to manage what I own. And for instance, we can go through some of those names. CLS, I bought this thing a few days ago on the 12th. I just trimmed some off yesterday. I thought it was breaking 116. Cool. I was like, all right, great. And then, I was like, if it starts to break 116, which is this left side peak, I will get rid of some. I trimmed half my position, and now there's really nothing left for me to do except just trail this ascending 10 for now, right? The little lower half of this base. So we'll just trail for now. GRR is a name that I'm still short, been short since, beginning of April at 23 bucks. HSAI, I kind of got lucky. I bought this thing on the 20th, didn't really take off, but it did take off yesterday. Really, really nice to see. Obviously, some of these Chinese equities, they kind of threw me off. They were acting pretty weak yesterday, like PDD and BABA and Baidu. And so I trimmed off half my HSAI into like this, 10% plus move on the intraday. And plus they got earnings coming up soon. So I was like, okay, cool. Just, take some off the table, which is what I did. Still holding on to half my position. And obviously it's gapping up tonight, which is, wish XPEV were doing the same. KGC, I bought off the rising 50-day on 515. And, I was using the 50 simple as my stop because it's about 30 cents a stop. Next day it gapped below, but closed very strong. And then it's just been trending up ever since. Pretty flat, slightly down this morning with gold down 0.27%. Netflix, I bought over $1,000, 1,019 right here. And I am already trimmed on Netflix. It is just a matter of holding it and seeing where the market takes us. Ideally, the 50 catches up, starts to catch up to 1,100, and then I can use the 50 on Netflix. I shorted Rigetti yesterday twice. So I shorted Rigetti at, I could tell you guys exactly where I shorted it. I shorted Rigetti at 1186 as it was taking out its opening print in the morning. And then, so I was kind of watching this thing pop up and, put in these little upper wicks. And then I told myself and I even mentioned it in the room, as this is taking out 1185, I'm looking to be short with my stop at high a day. So I started to short this right in here. And then I came back and I shorted some more on this failure, 1164. So 1164. And I'm just sitting in it now, and we'll just see what happens at the open. TMDX, I bought on the earnings gap up, and I trimmed some yesterday, 421. Toast, I trimmed some a few days ago on, I want to say, this day that it put in its wick on day number 3, I believe. When did I trim Toast? I can just confirm. I bought on the earnings gap up 4081. And I trimmed some off 4410. So on this third day, as it was wicking back, is that right? 4410. When the hell did I trim them off? Third day, 4410. But when was that? It was in the afternoon. So it was lower as this was failing in here. And then at the close, and then yesterday, 4304. So as this thing started to break the 10-day. I also have Tesla. I bought 292 when it broke the 200 way back here. So just kind of hanging in there for now. If this thing starts to break 330, I will trim some off, which it kind of did, but we'll see. As long as this thing can hold on to its 10, I'll just hang in there. Uber, I bought on the reclaim of the 50 simple way back here, 424. And what else do I have? NXPEV, I bought yesterday right at the open. So, and I'm down like 25 cents on it. So that's about it. Yeah, thoughts on quantum stocks? I'm short. I'm short quantum. I don't know that they're the hottest right now. I think they're the hottest pieces of what, but yeah, I mean, if you want, obviously this QBT has big moves since earnings. QUBT is the one that gives me a good chuckle, right? QBT, former beverage company. I'm surprised they're not already at $2. They do like $30,000 in revenue. I don't even know how they pay their employees, but I don't know what this means, Carter. I can play 200 breaks. You want to rephrase? I have no idea what you actually mean by that. Do you mean like with Tesla? Yeah, well, I get this question all the time, and I had some guys in the room being like, "Hey, Ariel, well, what do you think about FSLR?" And I talked about this, on the day that it happened. So when something has to run up into the 200, right? A 50% move off the lows to run into the 200 and then break through. I want to be patient for the stock to establish itself above the 200, right? On the flip side of that, and then why? Because, this can happen, right? It can just break right back through. But when you have something like Tesla that consolidated just underneath the 200, right? A breakthrough is something I want to do. These setups are very powerful, right? Tesla ran up into the 200, went sideways for 10 days, right? And then powerfully broke through the 200, right? These are the moves I want to be a part of. The one I don't want to do is your FSLRs of the world, right? I don't want to see this happen and then all of a sudden think that on this day up here at 181, it's buyable when it started moving, from 135, right? It just went literally 40%. And then now I'm coming into the thing, right? If this thing would have gotten right underneath the 200, went sideways for 10 days, then, you buy it as it's going back through the 200, or it gets through the 200, it established itself above the 200, and then it gives you a clean setup, down the road. So two totally different setups. CrowdStrike I got rid of yesterday. I sold the rest of my CrowdStrike yesterday on this very weak close on a pickup in volume. I've been in it since 400. I just let it go, right? It's like I thought it was a cup and handle that was ready to go. Market had other decisions, and I felt like it was about to lose the 20. It did lose the 20 overnight, and I'm glad to be out for right now. And by the way, CrowdStrike wasn't acting nearly as strong as Zscaler, right? Like while Crowd was still building out this cup, Zscaler kept going higher. While Crowd was building out the cup, Rubrik was just trending higher. While Crowd was building out the cup, Okta was going higher, all in the same group, by the way. So, yeah, I saw Road yesterday in my scans. Again, needs more sideways, moves 4% per day. It's up 26% from the 50-day. So, one, it's unbuyable. Prim, I did not see Prim. Prim looks fine, but again, too extended from the 50. So for now, needs more sideways. MTZ. Again, everything looks the damn same. I said this go back and scroll through my tweets. I said this I don't know, 6 days ago, something like that. I said, I see the cups, but I don't see any handles, right? I see the cups, but I don't see handles. MTZ, same deal, needs more sideways. EME, I see the cup, I don't see the handle. BPCP, this one's way too thin, man. Throw this off your radar. I mean, this thing trades like $700,000 a day. I take bigger. I've got a bigger position in Rigetti. You don't want to be in that. Trust me. I didn't even look through the other positions for dollar volume, but that caught my attention. HSIC, leave this alone. This is just a choppy as shit. I mean, look at this. I mean, you really want to put your money in this? You don't want to do that to yourself. You don't want to do that to yourself. NTES. Yeah, this one's cool. But again, moves 2.33% per day, so it's kind of slow. And it's up about 15% from the 50. So a little too extended here if you didn't buy it on the earnings gap up. Your next best setup, this isn't even a high volume close. It's had higher volume down here. Nice accumulation volume, I'll tell you that. But just be patient with this thing. Just be patient. And SSRM. This one's actually a whole lot nicer. Super tight to the 50. Has a nice flat base it can break out of. But it's not that special. Looks like it's just getting above the 200. It only trades $23 million a day too. So again, just be careful trading some of these thicker ones. Solana looks similar to Tesla. You're talking about Solana, the Bitcoin? Yeah, I'm not going to try to compare the two. One's a crypto, one's a stock that trades in the equity markets. I mean, if you were to be like Solana looks a lot like Ethereum or Bitcoin from whenever, then I'm not going to compare Solana to Serve. Yeah, Serve just would need more sideways. But anything that can go from $22 back to, $6 or $4, just be cautious, man. Serve just needs more sideways before it could go higher. But yeah, just be careful. Anyone looking at APG? No, extended from the 50, brother. This thing moves 2.5% per day, and it's 20% above its 50-day. It's just far too extended. Yeah, it's 8 times its average true range from the 50. It's just too far gone. Amazon, I made a mistake on. Very regretful. I had Amazon at 193 and I cut it same day because it wasn't pushing. And then obviously this thing's pulling right back into its 200-day. If this thing holds and then takes out yesterday's highs, I mean, I could even see this as a long setup. Meta, I also had yesterday, and I took a little loss on it, right? I tried buying this as a higher low setup yesterday, 243, and it just failed. So, it was just about managing risk yesterday. Like my old longs weren't really gaining traction. And then my new longs were starting to fail with the market. So the last thing I really wanted to do was argue with that. And then, just start, taking really big losses for no reason. They're never really big losses because I'm sized right. But maybe. Yeah. Google had an absolutely massive day yesterday. I guess, I have yet to watch Google's presentation, but apparently it was awesome. And, Google's starting to get back up above the 200. I'll just be patient and let this thing establish itself above the 200. And when it does, Farva, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what he said. Yeah, past big winners can go, 10, 12 times its average true range from the 50. What it is it's not that names can't get it more extended from the 50. It's just that I don't engage in new positions more than 4 times their average true range from the 50. Nah, James Wilson. I'm not trying to own laggards. I'm trying to fill up my portfolio with leading companies, not turds. BBAI is a turd. There's no potential here. Again, stocks that go from 10 to $2 and drop 75% in a month. These are turds, man. This looks like a lot like, if anything, it looks a lot like Reddit. Stocks that just don't bounce with the market. And then they just don't bounce with the market while the market's going higher. Except BBAI is the small cap version of this, but probably way worse of a business. But yeah, Farva, it's not like things can't get, more extended from the 50. After 8 times, it can go 10 times, 11 times, 12 times. But I'm not going to engage in positions like that. That's just far too extended from the 50 for me to get involved, right? I like to buy things that are tight, Yeah, James, focus on what Santo just said. He likes stocks near 52-week and all-time highs. Yeah, I liked Reddit as a short either yesterday, but I personally preferred it as a short a few days ago as it re-lost the 200. Above the 200, good. Below the 200, bad. So it gives you a really, really nice. So a few days ago, as it was re-losing the 200, right? Like even in here, right? You lose the 200 and then it tries to come back and reclaim the 200 and just fails. So, but yeah, stocks near their 52-week highs are way better. Way better. Less overhead supply. NIU may have a recent delayed or may have a delayed reaction. Let's take a peek. No, man, this is just too thin. Just too thin. This trades $3.5 million a day. NIU. Not good enough. GRAL. I've been asked about this one a ton. Yeah, it's just going sideways here. It's like is it like medical devices or something like that? I think I saw. What is this? Diagnostic and research. Okay. No, what I prefer to do, no, this is the only real time that I'm okay to buy stocks that, jump up to more than 4 times their average daily range from the 50 or average true range from the 50. I'm okay with that. But again, understand your setup, right? And where you are in the market cycle. Is like the NASDAQ up 30% in the last, month, 23%? If that's the case, then, the market needs a breather, right? Some digestion. So, and what I prefer to do is what I've been actually noticing lately is the better setups are using high volume closes. So use those to your advantage. Look at Sezzle, look at Dave, look at Oddity, look at NRG, even better. SMLR still strong? Yeah, but SMLR is a turd. It could be strong, but this is a turd. Just these Bitcoin treasury holding companies. Guys, these are just, let it establish itself above the 200 and maybe down the road. Like maybe way later down the road. I love the volume that came in here, by the way. So I don't want to talk too much shit about it, but if your business is all you do is buy Bitcoin, you're not a real business. I want to trade real stocks. I actually don't even want to say that because it is a real business, but it's just, these are all basically just Bitcoin plays. If you guys like Bitcoin so much and you want SML, just buy IBIT. Just own some IBIT. It's the way I look at it. It's like there can only be one MSTR. Everybody's on the duplicate what MSTR is doing train and expect massive results. I think it's kind of obnoxious, to be honest with you, but that's all right. If SMLR establish itself above the 200, then great. Move up, tighten up, give me a higher low, give me a little, flag, something, and then, now we're cooking. Hey man, thank you. I appreciate that. I do upload these onto the YouTube if you haven't noticed. So if you go to my X page and then click on my YouTube page, I take these pre-market preps and I upload them onto YouTube so people can watch later. I've considered doing like a little post-market prep where I just like kind of go through the market and like what happened today, but like, really without you guys there, and just do like 10-minute videos as well. And then, kind of recap what happened during the day as well. So hopefully maybe, I'll start doing those here in the future. And then you can have those as well as a little, post-market recap. How do you see exponential bet sizing? Any difference between swing and day? So I don't really use exponential bet sizing. What I do is I think about how fast the stock moves, with its average true range or average daily range. I think about where my stop is located. I think about what stock I'm buying and the group that it's in. I think about where we are in the market to make the determination of whether a stock deserves a 20% position, a 15% position, a 10% position, 5%. If the stock is super, super volatile, then I just size them down. And then if a stock is less volatile and has a 2.5% risk to low of day, then, I can size it up. So those are more like things that I think about in real time that, kind of make the difference. And then if I'm operating behind traction, meaning, I've gotten traction on one name, two names, three names, etc., then I begin to get more and more aggressive behind traction. So hopefully that makes some sense. Again, a lot of little nuance to that question. But, as a swing trading effectively, I'm looking for time to be the thing that pays me and not my position sizing. It was too extended, Carter. It needed more sideways. Yeah, I'm watching CoreWeave. Ideally, in the ideal world, we get one more day, right? In my ideal world, or we go and try to retest this 120 at market open, like 117, 118, and then the tape stuffs really hard. And then I'll look for any pops versus that area and then scale myself in on a potential short. Yeah, solid bounce on the QQQs, but, pretty much nothing burger so far. Just because I have a solid bounce on the QQQs doesn't mean I have any stocks to buy, right? Stocks still need some sideways. So the QQQs can do whatever they think they have to do. The reality is I can't just come into this thing today. I'm not really looking to buy stocks today. I've got plenty of longs that I need to manage. Yeah, I saw Snow earnings. Snow was actually the one that I gave away on last night's watch list video that I would be watching as a potential gap up. So 194 is definitely a level that I was watching, and we gapped above that. Really nice to see. Really nice to see. Yeah, we would like to see the market go, even pull back and just continue to go sideways for the next few days. So the next few days, really a 3 weeks tight pattern is what I would recommend everybody reading. 3 weeks tight. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, 194 is a good level. But you know what? I would personally just let this thing open, let it have a really big day, hopefully a big up day on volume, and then use the high volume close. Now, I'm not concerned because I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to use a high volume close on Snow. Go back and look at Sezzle. Go back and look at Dave. Go back and look at NRG. Go back and look at Oddity. Those are the kind of setups I'm looking for. Let them have their day, and then you come in for a high volume close setup. That's it. That's all you got to do. Don't try to own it early. Just let it do what it's going to do. Let the market do what it's going to do, and then you come in for a high volume close. Much easier that way. Much easier. Look at Sezzle. Look at Dave. Look at Oddity. Look at NRG. Look at the up day on earnings. Look at the volume on that day. And then high volume close. Look at the close. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. And if you need a touch more help, brother, I got you. But those are good setups to study. Yeah, look at Sezzle, SEZL. Look at Dave, DAVE. Look at Oddity, ODD. Look at NRG. Those are good setups to study. Urban for EP, I don't know. But I'm not buying EPs right now. Right? I'm going to let it do what? The high volume close. Yeah, I mean, this thing's hanging out pretty well. Gotta say that. $70, but I'm not going to come in and buy this. It's going to be wildly extended from the 50 too. 35% from the 50. I mean, it's going to be 10 times its average daily range from the 50. I can't do it. I personally can't do it. I'd have to play a high volume close or a high tight flag down the road. I remember, NVIDIA gave me a setup way back when over here, and it did something similar, right? Where this thing gaps up on earnings, and then after it's already been in an uptrend, gaps up on earnings, and then it just goes sideways, right? This would be great for urban. So I want to see that snow closes or ends the day on high volume. That's correct. Yeah, I don't want to buy an opening range high today. It's not often that price gaps up like it is today on snow, puts in a high volume close, and then gaps over that high volume close. That doesn't happen very often, like almost ever. Normally price goes through that level. I mean, I'm sure it happens. I just don't know too many examples recently off the top of my head where that has actually happened. Oh. When the buy market taking investors. Yeah, I mean, if something's going to gap after gap, then, it's going to have to go without me because I don't chase price, guys. Would I use the high volume close even if snow moves up 20% today? Brother, I need you to look at Sezzle. I need you to look at Dave. I need you to look at Oddity. You tell me how much those were up and if those still worked. You tell me. If I just give you the answer, I want you to study it. That's why. I'm not picking on you, just so you know. I just want you to study it so you can see it. SEZL, DAVE, ODD, NRG, those are pretty good examples recently. I'm not picking on you. I just want you to study it. That's all. When you see it with your own eyes and you measure the distance off the prior day close, and then you say, holy cow, and then you say, oh, wow, look at that move after the fact. Like, I want you to study it, gain conviction in it, and then, you'll know exactly what to do when it's happening. Well, Tesla's not at the 20-day, it's at the 10, but yeah, HIMS came down quite a bit. But the 20 simple for me is $48. So we're still not there. We're at 53. We're kind of in no man's land. We're in between the 10 and the 20. So, it's not something that I'll get involved in just yet. I don't really want to buy weakness. I would rather, wait for things to just tighten up here, right? I still have so many longs that instead of putting on more longs, I need to just manage what I own. And if the market's going to continue to fade, I need to get another short or two on to hedge my long exposure is what I really need to do. What longs do I have active? I can run through them one more time. I have CLS from 100. I have GRR as a short from 23. I have some HSAI from 1970s. I have some KGC from 14 or 1360s. I have Netflix from $1,000, basically 1,019. I have a short on Rigetti, which I shorted twice yesterday, basically 1170s. TMDX from the earnings gap up, $115. Toast from $40.80. Tesla from 292, Uber from 75, XPEV I'm slightly red on 2130s, which I bought yesterday. So 2 shorts and too many longs that I need to manage. Nothing wrong with it, honestly. All my longs are in the green, with the exception of XPEV. Was, of course, not expecting the gap down overnight. I don't see any. It depends where you own, Jason. The caveat that you're not mentioning here is, where do you own it from, right? Do you own it from 100? If you own it from 100, then you should just be respecting the 20 simple moving average. If you just bought it the other day, then you need to manage your risk. Yeah, if you own it from 115, then at the very least, you need to make sure you're you need to make sure you're reducing some into that strength. And then you need to, cut the rest maybe when it breaks a 5-day, the 8-day, if that's what you like to use. So I think that that's the right thing to do, right? If you owned it from 100, then you just need to respect your 20-day. But yeah, today is not a day that I'm out here looking to add on more exposure. You had a pickup in volatility yesterday, and I'm not looking to add on any more exposure here. I'm looking to manage what I own, and I'm looking to potentially add another little short. If my Rigetti keeps fading and my GRR keeps fading, I want to look for a short, maybe in something like CoreWeave, maybe in one of these XLV names, although I think, I should have shorted them 2 days ago. Stuff like that, right? Stuff like that. And, depending on how weak the market feels. My watch list is really actually littered with names that are fairly strong. Somebody mentioned LOAR, right? Maybe something like that. I'm not sure. It's already gone down quite a bit, but who knows? Maybe even something like this Rocket Lab, if it's going to fail, who knows? It's already kind of failing right now. But yeah, I need to make sure that I've got some of my long exposure hedged. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys all once again for being here. You guys are awesome. Tomorrow, Friday, last day of the week. Hopefully you guys have had a great week, and please just don't do anything too crazy out here, right? Some big volatility yesterday, and there's really no reason to jump back in the market. When the market begins to pull you back in, use progressive exposure, take it one position at a time. If you're already in stocks for the last few weeks, like I've been, just manage what you own, peel some into strength. And then, if you like playing the short side, just start to use progressive exposure on the short side as well. Just one position at a time. Do not get too aggressive into taking way too many positions here. Again, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys all. And I will see you guys in 23 hours. Cheers.